Welcome to Kind Soul Stories, where one small moment of kindness can change lives forever. Tonight's story begins on a freezing night, in a city that never truly sleeps, but sometimes forgets to care. The cold pierced deeper than usual that night. It wasn't just the winter air slicing through the streets, but the silence that followed it. The city was loud everywhere else, but right there, under the flickering streetlight near the closed subway entrance, it felt forgotten. That was where the boy stood, holding a small bundle against his chest, his arms trembling not from fear, but from exhaustion. His voice barely carried over the wind when he spoke. "Sir, my baby sister is freezing." The CEO had not planned to stop. He was already late. His driver waited a few steps behind, the car engine humming softly, warmth spilling from the open door. The day had been endless meetings, numbers, signatures, decisions that affected thousands of employees he barely knew by name. He was used to pressure. Used to responsibility. Used to walking past problems he could not solve. But when the boy spoke, the world seemed to slow, as if the city itself had leaned in to listen. The boy could not have been more than 9. His jacket was thin, too thin for winter, its zipper broken and sleeves frayed. His shoes were worn down at the soles, letting the cold bite straight through. In his arms was a baby wrapped in a faded blanket that had lost its warmth long ago. Her face was red from the cold, lips trembling, tiny fingers curling weakly against her brother's chest. She did not cry. That silence frightened the CEO more than any scream could have. For a moment, he hesitated. Years of instinct told him to be careful. To call someone. To delegate. To let systems handle things. But systems were slow, and this baby was cold now. Without another thought, he slipped off his coat. It was heavy, tailored, expensive. He wrapped it gently around the boy and his sister, kneeling down so his eyes were level with the child's. "What's your name?" he asked. "Ethan," the boy replied, tightening his hold on the baby as if afraid she might disappear. "And your sister?" "Lily." The CEO felt something tighten in his chest. Lily. Such a small name for such a fragile life. He stood and made a decision that would later change everything. "Come with me," he said softly. "You shouldn't be out here." Ethan hesitated. He had learned early that promises from strangers were dangerous. But the warmth of the coat, the gentleness in the man's voice, and the way he looked at Lily not as a problem but as a person broke through the wall of fear. Slowly, Ethan nodded. The drive was quiet. The city lights blurred past the windows as Lily finally let out a small whimper, then settled when Ethan adjusted the coat around her. The CEO watched them from the front seat, his reflection faint in the glass. He told himself this was temporary. Just warmth. Just safety for the night. Yet deep down, he knew this moment was already carving something permanent into his life. At his home, the warmth was immediate. The house was large, almost intimidating, filled with polished surfaces and quiet rooms. Ethan stepped inside carefully, eyes wide, as if afraid to touch anything. The CEO guided them to the living room, lighting the fireplace while calling his housekeeper, who arrived within minutes, shocked but compassionate. Lily was warmed, fed, and examined by a doctor the CEO called without hesitation. Mild hypothermia, the doctor said, but she would be okay. Ethan sat nearby the entire time, refusing to let go of her tiny hand. When the doctor left, the house grew quiet again, broken only by the crackle of firewood. Later that night, over a bowl of warm soup, Ethan finally spoke. Their mother had died months ago. Their father had left long before that. Social services had taken them once, separated them, and Ethan had run away with Lily rather than lose her. They had been sleeping wherever they could, shelters when there was space, stairwells when there wasn't. He had learned how to keep Lily quiet when she cried, how to beg without looking weak, how to stay invisible. The CEO listened, every word landing heavier than the last. He had grown up with comfort, structure, and choices. He had never wondered where his next meal would come from, never feared being torn from someone he loved. That night, after Ethan and Lily finally slept in clean beds, the CEO sat alone in his office, staring at nothing, knowing he could not undo what he had seen. The challenges did not end with kindness. The next days were filled with legal hurdles, questions, paperwork. Authorities were skeptical. Friends warned him. Advisors questioned his judgment. The media whispered. Ethan struggled too. He woke screaming some nights, terrified Lily would be gone. He flinched at raised voices. He didn't trust comfort because comfort had always been temporary. Lily carried silent wounds as well. She startled easily, cried when left alone even for moments. Doctors said early cold and stress could leave marks that only time and love could heal. The CEO learned to slow down. Meetings were cancelled. Priorities shifted. He learned how to warm bottles, how to sit through nightmares, how to promise safety and mean it. Some nights were harder than others. Some mornings began with doubt. But slowly, laughter returned to the house. Months passed. The legal process dragged on. There were nights Ethan packed his bag, ready to run. Each time, the CEO knelt beside him and said the same words. "You are safe here. I'm not leaving." When the final court decision came, Ethan held Lily tightly. When custody was granted, he didn't celebrate. He cried. Quiet tears of relief, of belonging, of a childhood finally given a chance. Years later, people asked the CEO what changed his life. They expected a business answer. Instead, he always thought of a freezing night, a brave little boy, and 3 words that broke through everything. Because real success isn't measured by money or power. It's measured by lives touched, by warmth shared, by choosing humanity when it matters most. This is why we share stories like this on Kind Soul Stories, to remind us that kindness still exists in this world. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment and share, and also tell us in the comments where you are watching from, and never forget that even the smallest act of compassion can change a life forever.